So first things first, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Doing fine. Just adapting to the new normal around here. I'm sure
Hmm,
you and all listeners are doing the same.
sure. And is it affecting your creativity, either for good or for worse?
Yeah, I think really for good, because then you have the time to just kind of get to things that you haven't been able to get to. So I think there are definitely some blessings that have come from this in many ways. I've started playing the ukulele more,
Okay.
which is something that I wanted to do. So I'm getting better at an instrument, looking into songs I've wanted to learn.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, I got this new baby a couple of days ago. So
Okay.
there are a lot of good
Okay.
things.
Oh,
Yes.
that's very good. That's very good. Um, well, going into the album then, because you say learning songs, that's one thing you've done over the last couple of years as well with the album that you've made. Now, am I right in saying that it all started with a Ken Burns documentary series?
Well, I'd done the show and the Nashville Songbook a few years prior, but
Okay.
we we were inspired to do the album by watching the Ken Burns documentary, just to see all the interest in classic country music. I've always been interested in classic country music, but to see this, how well that show did, and of course when I was in the studio with an orchestra, and um, we thought, we should record a classic country song and utilize having this enormous string section and do a song. So we decided to do Skeeter Davis's "The End of the World."
And a song like that, is it daunting to take on a song like that?
I've been doing these kind of songs my whole career.
Hmm.
Um, so for me, it's just a real natural fit. I've always loved that style
Hmm.
since I was a little girl. So these kind of songs just really, I relate to them. I love the instrumentation. They just really seem to resonate with me, lyrically and melodically. So the cool thing about it, though, is that I worked with Skeeter at the Opry
Okay.
for several years and got to know her. And she was such a wonderful person, and got to hear her sing the song on the Opry. And
Hmm.
just, so that's cool. That's a cool tie-in, to be able to say
Right.
that I worked with her.
And having seen that documentary about kind of the more classical country music or the more traditional country music, what struck you about kind of what your art is in a way? What struck you about your musical? I don't know if pedigree is the right word, but kind of that musical tradition that you're in.
Well, I think, you know, they released an album, I guess, shortly after that, and it did really well. And it just goes to show that people still care about that
Mm.
type of music. People care about the classics. You don't hear them as much on the radio. Of course, there are satellite outlets that play, like Willie's Roadhouse. They play the classics, and with Pandora and Spotify and different things like that, you can pretty well listen to what you want to hear.
Sure.
Modern country music for sure is completely different than that type of music, and of course is very, very popular with the younger folks. But people my age and older, they still want to hear the great country classics. They're not forgotten.
Right. And then, just quickly, you were born and raised in Tennessee, right?
Yes.
In Nashville as well?
In Crossville, Tennessee, which is about 2 hours east, and it's in between Nashville and Knoxville.
Okay, but you were close enough, kind of, because I saw a documentary years ago by I forgot his name, Dave Grohl, Sonic Highways, and Nashville was one of the cities he went to, and he talked about this kind of split in country music, where, like you said, that there was one side, a little bit more younger people. I think it was more of putting a cowboy hat on and kind of singing pop songs. That's how he described it. But and then there's that traditional side. How do you see is there a divide, or is that kind of, because I've
Yeah,
never
I
been
mean,
to Nashville.
yeah, I mean, it's not so much the cowboy hats anymore. I think people are going. I mean, at one time, probably when he was talking about it, was more the line dancing period, and things were going a little more pop in the 90s and 2000s. But now it's even more pop.
Okay.
But yeah, there's still some very, very staunch traditionalists here in Nashville. Nashville's really a great music town. There are a lot of different types of artists here, from pop, alternative, Americana. There's a huge Americana scene, jazz scene, bluegrass. So you can really find your own way here. If you're not necessarily into the real modern country music, and that's kind of more the music industry. That's what they're doing, but that really doesn't define. It really doesn't define Nashville when you live here and you're in the midst of all the different players and all the different singers that are doing stuff around town.
So if we go back to when you got interested in music and particularly the kind of music that is on the album, looking back now, what got you, do you know why you were attracted to that kind of music?
I'm not really sure, other than it was Patsy Cline ultimately that really got me. And I think, because I was so young, but I think what I heard was vulnerability. And I think that's what really got me. I could tell, I didn't know why her heart was breaking, but I could recognize that it was. And I think it was just the emotion in her singing, the beautiful arrangements. But it really spoke to me. And so that's just something that I've always looked for in music, is whether it resonates with me emotionally. So I think that's what it was. And particularly, and I love all different types of country music, but particularly I really love that Nashville sound that Owen Bradley and Chet Atkins were responsible for. Billy Sherrill was another one, Jerry Kennedy, these great producers. And a lot of them had vast musical influences in pop and R&B. And but that's the kind of music that really resonated with me the most.
And when you started singing yourself then, and you see that people are, you can convey those emotions that you talked about, and you can see people reacting to it in the crowd. What did that do for you, especially early on?
What made me feel good? It made me if I can make a person feel the way I felt the first time I heard Patsy Cline or Tammy Wynette, then I know I'm doing my job, and they've taught me well, because I think that's what it's all about when you listen to music, that it is an emotional experience, that it does something to you. Either you can relate to it, or it takes you back to a memory that's either positive or meaningful or sad. The music just has a way of transporting you to good times and bad times.
Sure. And then now I assume you have a connection to all of the songs, obviously, but is there one that kind of sticks out on a personal note for you?
Well, I do have a long history with these songs. There are a couple, though, that are from childhood, because I was a child of the 80s. And I love A Rainy Night. It's not a song that I've sung very long at all, but it's a song I remember riding down the road, listening to the local country station in Knoxville and hearing it played. Eddie Rabbitt was such an incredible artist. But back in the 90s, when I was first starting out, I got to open for him at a place in Illinois. It was called Nashville North. And such a nice man and such a great talent. But I really was thrilled to be able to include that song on the album. It's Over is another one I love by Roy Orbison. And I think it was more popular in Europe than it was in the States, but just a killer song.
And one of the things I did in preparation was I went and listened to obviously your album, but I kind of looked up everyone's version and kind of seeing what they did and where it came from. So you mentioned I Love a Rainy Night, and what struck me about that song is when you sing it, it doesn't sound old.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. So you're saying it sounds more modern or fresh?
Because you do keep that identity of the song, and then I think for the rest, I don't know why I'm this. Usually, I try to be non-judgmental about music, but I think you really managed to capture a lot of those songs without making them feel old. Was there some conscious effort to try and?
Yeah, because I mean, you really don't want to go back and just do dead ringers for, exactly the same interpretation, almost like you're doing karaoke. There's no point in that. So we did make a concerted effort to update the arrangements a little bit without losing the soul of the song. I mean, you have, you don't want to just completely ruin a song just by doing it differently. So we just kind of took it on a song-by-song basis, really.
Right. And one of the other ones, and you talk about this in the bio, that I really like is, It's Now or Never, because I always loved that Bryan Adams song, Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman, with Paco de Lucia.
Me too.
And so can you tell me what struck you in that song?
Well, I was sitting with a friend listening to that song, and Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman? And I thought, gosh, what a great arrangement. This is just so incredible. And I loved it. It became one of my favorite songs. And so when we were thinking about It's Now or Never, I started thinking how, that particular arrangement, the feel of that arrangement could work for It's Now or Never. So we tried it, and it was magic. And so sometimes you can kind of venture away from the original and do something, a little bit different, and it works. You just have to try things out, basically. Some things work, some things don't.
And you kind of touched upon this in the beginning of the interview, and it might sound silly, but why is it important that we remember these songs?
Because they're great. They're great. Sorry, the bird nearly smashed into me. Between the bird and the dog, I'm having a time here. The songs are great. Melodically, they're wonderful to sing. The lyrics are very meaningful. I think at a time where, songs are very different now. They're very repetitive. Lyrically, it's just a different time. I can't say that one's better than the other. I just know that for me, I prefer a song that just has a real genius lyric. I look for that, and a melody that I can sink my teeth into.
Can we pick out one of the songs then? Maybe if you don't have an example ready, that's fine. But where you really like the lyrics, or are really impressed by kind of how they came up with the lyrics?
I love Love Hurts by Boudleaux and Felice Bryant. It's very simple, but it's such a meaningful song. And I think it's a song that anyone could relate to. It's a song that's been a hit and covered by many people, from the Everly Brothers to Nazareth. So I think that's the type of song that can live on forever.
Right. And what does that kind of say about those artists who made it, that the fact that we're now in 2020 and we can still enjoy those songs? And then even more so, maybe, do you see a lot of young people gravitating towards this type of music as well?
I think so. I think more and more. And of course, that's that is something that I'm hoping that I can do, is expose these songs to a younger audience as well.
Well, in that sense, because I've been doing this job for quite a while, and the music industry isn't, as far as I can tell, isn't a very easy business, and it's I would say quite volatile, and you have to work quite really, really hard in order to get things done. So, what are kind of the hurdles, so to say, to get this music to the people? Because I've always thought about exposure, and I think if people are exposed to a multitude of music, then there's always people that are going to like it. But I would agree, I don't know if you said this, but that today's music is a little bit more homogenous. It's very, very similar to each other.
Right. Marketing is a big deal. I mean, you can make the record, but if no one hears it, it really doesn't do any good. So social media is important. Doing interviews like with yourself, streaming. These are all things that take some getting used to, especially because I'm not 20 years old anymore. I'm in my mid-40s, and even though I've kept up with social media, it's ever changing with the streaming and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a matter of kind of keeping up with the times and trying to get your music out as best as you can. Right.
And now, obviously, we're living in a strange time these days. So, do you miss being on stage? Can I assume you miss being on stage?
I miss being on stage, and I really do. I miss the audiences, but hopefully, as time goes on, there will be a vaccine or a way to treat this virus, and we'll be able to get back to our lives. I know it's just been so surreal for everyone, not just artists. I mean, it's just affected everyone. But I'm making the best of it. I'm singing in my house. I'm making some videos and posting them from time to time. So I've done some recordings. So I think that's, we do the best we can, and just realize we're all in the same boat all over the world. We're in it together, and hopefully there will come an end to this soon.
Final question then, with what you just said, what does that tell you about how important singing and being on stage is to you? Or basically, I'm asking you how important singing and being on stage, having that creative outlet is to you.
I love it. I do. I love it. I've been doing it my whole life. I thrive on it. It's been really tough not being able to do it. But at the same time, I think it's important for everyone to stay safe. And from the audience members to the crew to me, the band. So I'm willing to sacrifice that and try to figure out different ways to get the music out there to people. If we have to stream a show, we'll do whatever we have to do to adapt to the new normal until we get this figured out and can get back to playing live.
Fair enough. All right. I want to thank you very much for your time, for taking the time to talk to me. And yeah, I keep getting distracted by your dog. It's so cute.
I'm sorry, I am too. I don't know what he's doing right now,
but so thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day. I wish you the best with the release of the album and everything.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much, and thanks for the interview. Sorry about the dog and the bird.
No, it's excellent.
The bird nearly smashed into my face. Who could have seen that coming?